talked about are regular symptoms that we feel with overtraining.
Yes.
And sometimes they go away temporarily just by resting a bit, and then they come back.
Yes.
How do we know if this is just temporary because we need that rest, or if it's part of a larger problem?
Yes. So we have symptoms when we train that were on this board, a list of symptoms that are associated with adrenal fatigue. How do you know that they're adrenal fatigue, and how do you know that they're from your training? Yes. Your training fatigues your adrenals. So yes, it is because your withdrawal from your bank account was too great. For what you had in your account, it was too great. When we do a workout, it takes energy. Energy is required. How much did you have to give that day? Do you overgive because your people, your community were going, come on, one more rep, you know, come on, it's for time. Did you put your mind in it so that your mind exceeded the capacity of your body? Yes, you exhausted your adrenals, and yes, your adrenals will bounce right back. That's what they're for. So that we can put ourselves into situations where we have exceeded perhaps what was in the bank account at the moment, but that if we live the rest of our lives filling our bank account, then we rest and it comes back. That's why rest is everything. Rest in your workout, rest between your workouts. You are not doing your body any favors to overtrain at all, ever. But that is always punishing. And that is when it's like, listen to your body. What is your body saying? And when we get used to that, in the beginning, it is hard because of the things that Anna was just talking about, because we're listening to something else. That wasn't your body that was laying in bed going, oh my God, I just want to stay here and hit the snooze instead of getting a workout in. That's not the same. That's your self-sabotage beliefs that you're listening to. So it does take some practice to get to know what your body is saying, but always, always, always listen. It's okay to take out of your bank account. Please take out of your bank account. Otherwise, it's just excess, right? So that's why we put things into our bank account, so that we can spend it on something fun, a good workout. So yes, it is. That is adrenal fatigue. You did wear yourself out. Good for you. Now, did you put it back in to raise it back up? Go ahead.
This happens, I know this happens sometimes when I overtrain, so I do want a bit of advice sometimes. This only happens mainly during competitions. I notice when I push myself too hard, obviously because it's a competition, I find that I bleed. As if it's my period, but then it's just like for that day or till the next day. What advice can you give for that?
Okay, so when you compete and you over push it, then there's bleeding as if it's a period, but then it stops. What is that, and how do I keep it from going? Okay, so because when we train, we are using the cortisol system, and because cortisol, the adrenals are at the top of that triangle, the cortisol is always influencing thyroid and is always influencing the female hormones, and the adrenals make progesterone. So when we overtrain and we're borrowing, and we've taken too much out of the bank account. So that is the adrenal glands. They don't just make cortisol, they also make progesterone. Often it is, when we stop progesterone, that's what says, oh, time for a period. So when you run out of progesterone, you go, time for a period. And that's why it's like when we say a cycle should be 28 days, but some people are having them sooner, we call that a luteal phase deficit. It's a progesterone deficit that may happen as we age, and that's not about how many birthdays we've had. That's about how hard we've been on our bodies. So we're starting to see those symptoms in our 30s, which should never happen. Again, when we're trying as women to do too much, more than our capacity, spending more in our bank accounts than we have. That's what you've done. So you've taken the progesterone, now I don't have any, that means bleed. That's what it means, bleed. Stop progesterone, your body goes, time for me to bleed. We don't want to see that, and there's other reasons to have that as well. That can be a structural thing as well, where the blood is escaping. It isn't good when we've interfered with our periods. That's when we've taken too much out of it. Again, we want to be women. I promise you, we do. It's really amazing. So keeping our cycles regular is important. That's what allows us to be us. So yeah, you've gone too far. And this is the thing. It's like when I've made the decision to do this competition, yeah, so that's your decision that you've made. You have to realize there's a lot that has to go into that bank account. And I've never, ever, ever had harder patients in my life than fitness competitors who have retired, probably not because they wanted to, but everything is getting so much better. Attending these types of conferences, exercising properly, all these things, this didn't used to happen ever. And anyways, even if there were conferences on this, all the studies, all the, there's sausage parties, all of them. It's all the men that's in it. All the studies are on men. It's all for that, and it doesn't relate to us. All these diets, the keto, the paleo, we're not talking about women unless somebody says, hey, it's for women, like those carb recommendations. That's for women. We have different requirements. Nothing is more difficult for me to change than a fitness competitor who has become fat because her system is broken. And it's not like we said today, oh, you have these problems and we put these things back in and it fixes. Unfortunately, it doesn't just fix. When you have overridden your own system of saying, stop, I'm tired, I can't do anymore. It was like you override that too many times, it doesn't just come back online. And this is the days like when all we say is like, okay, the carbs that you have, like, let's do a little carb loading, have another half cup of oatmeal, right? Oh, you need to lean out a little bit before your show. How about another hour of cardio? That's what I'm talking about, okay? I don't think even people do that so much anymore, but you still find that in some old school gyms and some old school circles. Oh, okay, an hour of cardio is not enough. We're coming up to competition. Yeah, it was too much to start with, and you add another hour of cardio and then another half a cup of oatmeal, and it's like, that's what damages you. Nothing's permanent, but these are the hardest patients I've ever had to treat that are like that. A cancer patient responds faster than a woman who has been damaged by over competing, and it's mostly in fitness, because when you get into power, we're looking at totally different things. So yes.
Is there a correlation between PCO and working out and stuff involving like weights, like powerlifting and CrossFit? Is there a correlation?
Yeah. Is there a correlation between PCOS and powerlifting and lifting weights? So PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it's a word that has become a wastebasket term for women who aren't cycling regularly. So it's a term I really don't like, and when people say they have been diagnosed that way, I always say, really? It was like, have you really been diagnosed with that? Or did someone just want to say that because they don't know what else to call it? Especially because you have to think this is fairly new. And it's not because women have just started exercising, it's because people have been paying attention to it more now. And it's like, oh, okay, well, high testosterone, PCOS. And it's not necessarily PCOS. You really have too many ovaries. We all have more than one ovary developed, so we did an ultrasound. Oh, look at all those follicles or whatever. You have too many. No, that's not PCOS. So PCOS is you can think of it almost as an insulin resistance of the ovaries itself. So it has been needing glucose food. We took all those macros across the top. Every cell needs to have some energy. And how did you get them in? I couldn't get them in. I was overtraining, all that kind of stuff. It requires the micronutrients to be extracted out of the food. You have to take a big piece of steak and turn it into something liquid. That requires an enormous amount of energy. So you don't have that when you're spending it all on something else. Your body is very, very aware that when you go to the gym, if you don't repair those muscles, you can't run away from the tiger the next day. So sometimes it's all going there, and there isn't enough for the other symptoms. Please don't have a baby when you are running from the tiger, very bad, okay? So the very bad is like famine. It doesn't know the difference. So these restricted diets that sometimes women are doing, again, men can do these restrictive diets better than we can do it. We damage our systems when we do things too extreme, too excessive. We can do hard things, but we don't need to do it that way. So yes, that comes from the change in insulin and testosterone. That's how we get the PCOS. But if it's truly PCOS, we can rebuild that sensitivity to it. And cortisol is responsible for the glucose and the insulin, so it's very important that we manage these numbers. But no, I'm going to say it's not from the training. It's from something else that's excessive. So again, the training, I'm going to say it's good training, is just the withdrawal from the bank account, but oh my goodness, you get some really good benefits from that if we fill it with the rest and the good food. So sometimes, because you could just simply overtrain. CrossFitters. I'm just saying, it's like, it's so easy to become overtrained, and we need to fix those body parts really quickly. Yeah.
I'm mentioning this because most women who do CrossFit that I've met, they all seem to have PCO. So that's why I'm asking.
Okay. So yeah, most people who compete, powerlifters, have PCOS. So here's the thing, PCOS is usually associated with higher levels of testosterone, and guess what? You know, that's also the anabolic hormone, and in us it puts that tire around the middle as well, and we can be stronger with testosterone. So no, causing, no. Incidental, yes, that would be a great place for a woman as a power lifter.
I'd also like to make the point, and we've talked about this many times, that many people who are attracted to CrossFit are highly anxious, highly strung, and they're using it to try and have an outlet. They're just adding to that anxiety, and so then it's not the training. It's that they're constantly in a sympathetic nervous system state, and that's where we're constantly withdrawing from that bank account, never adding.
Yes. And then there's also the part of when we become like super achievers in the athletic world, we say that periods are inconvenient, and then we take the hormonal birth control, and then this opens up a whole other level of problems. Those pills tell your body it's pregnant. Yeah, so also not good when you're trying to be a competitive athlete like that. That would be a bad signal. So you say, oh, that would be inconvenient to have a heavy period and heavy cramps and all that stuff. Let me take this birth control pill. Yeah, it's actually a bad combination. Certainly as you go heavy, and then those all that estrogen, synthetic estrogen, is going to change what we were calling white tissues before, especially the ligaments, and then you're going to have injuries again. So it seems like a good idea to take a hormonal birth control pill when you want to go hard, but that's not the way. So no causing, no, but yes, I bet you will find it in powerlifting, because they do have higher levels of testosterone, and isn't that great? They can put more on the bar when you have higher levels of testosterone. By the way, we don't make the same gains with our testosterone as men do, because we don't have the receptors, not because we didn't have the level. We don't have the levels, but you can take it from the outside. But even when we take from the outside and we decide to do an injection, yes, we'll make gains. It's an anabolic hormone, but we won't have the same as what a man would have, ever. Yeah, other questions?
On what you said about PCOS, because I was diagnosed by my doctor as having it and being insulin resistant, and that's why I could never lose weight. I mean, when I worked out in LA with my friends, they were fitness models. We would do similar workouts, our macros would be on point, they would become shredded. I would lean out, but I would never look as shredded as they do. So I would always associate, oh, it's because I have PCOS and I can't ever get lean. And I seem to struggle all the time, or anybody who has experienced being overweight and just struggling with, they have the restricted diet, or they're trying all these things to get lean or lose weight. what is the secret formula to balance hormones other than sleep and all of the things you've touched on? Because I do notice when I get sleep, I have better gains the next day or the following week. If I don't get sleep and I have a lot of water weight, I have inflammation, I feel foggy. So I'm just trying to find that balance of how can I work hard in the gym, and I notice, okay, if you overtrain, that's just as bad as not training at all. And I feel like I'm starting to get that balance, but I see somebody who's doing half of what I do, and they look incredible, and they're so tight and they're toned, and they don't have a tire, but they might eat Five Guys every weekend. And I'm like, I eat so clean, I do everything seemingly right. You know, I stopped taking all of these pills my doctor told me to take because I said I don't think it's right for my body. And then you still don't see the results. That's what happens with that vicious cycle of getting into overtraining or being even more restricted. So where's that balance?
Yeah. Yes. So the question is, where's the balance? I know. To answer this question, you're going to say that's quite hypocritical that you're answering the question since I work 7 days a week and don't train or sleep. But here it is. That is the balance. What you were saying is the sleep. So sleep is magic, by the way. It really does so many things to us. It has a lot to do with the growth hormone. Okay, so we can only make the growth hormone at night. So that's the only time we're going to do the repair. And then to remember that we've all come to where we are today based on what happened yesterday, and it's different for everybody. And you could say, well, it's not fair, but that's just the so what. You know, everyone has got something that's happened to them before. And then it's to find your unique, first of all, your sport, not to train the way others train. Maybe for you, it's something, your movement, whatever you're going to do, is different for you. But then also to say, yes, if I optimize, like take all the little dials and controls and I optimize them for me, it's like that's how you make the small little gains. It's not the extra 10 reps in the workout. It's like for you, maybe it's 10 less, and that's your secret. It's like it's good because for me, for where I am today, so that I'm not overtrained, it's 10 less. So if you take the extreme adrenal condition, I still would want to see you in the gym working as hard as everybody else, but I would want your workout done in 20 minutes. That's how you make the gains. That's how you get rid of the spare tire. That's how you change things because you were so exhausted at that point that 20 minutes is your target until we move you into the next area. So I wish there were an easy answer, but sleep is one of those magic things that can change everything. And please don't look to your neighbor for what they're doing. And that's the reason why we have so many of these broken endocrine systems after training in women. You know, the men don't have it like that. We have it like that because we were already in such and such a phase, and then we're like, they're doing this, one more, two more, like I can't. And you shouldn't. Yeah, and we're going, oh, somebody else can, so I can. And it was like, no. What can your body do? So when you just say, like, if we were to, on that to-do list, if we were to choose one thing for somebody, maybe if you really had PCOS, your one thing would be like myo-inositol, which would change your life if you really have PCOS. So then that would be your one thing that's more important than organic greens or whatever for you that day. Or whatever, compared to somebody else, or that 10 whatever minute HIIT exercise that somebody else did, or what have you, or writing in your journal or whatever like that. It would be your one thing that's for you. And this is why I don't have protocols for anything or anybody. But guess what? The more times you go to the gym and you know what it feels like, the more you know what that is. So as a physician, when you're coming to me with problems, I listen until you say that. Until you say, my friends did this, and I do that, and I feel like, and that's my like, aha, you know, this is where we need to go. And by the way, it started when my boyfriend broke up with me, I had the flu, I got a vaccination or whatever like that. It's whatever it is that started it. For me, that's the fastest way to erase it. Let me go back, let me go back. If I can undo the original trauma, that catapults you to where you need to be. I wish it were an easy answer, but the basics of good water, good sleep, mindfulness, and a good program. And this is the other thing. There's so many trainers out there who just simply don't know what they're doing. They still are doing another hour cardio, your competitions next week. That, yeah, when you run into somebody like that, you've wrecked your body. You wrecked your life, you wrecked your body, you've wrecked your chances of staying in your competition, whatever that is. So I'm sorry that that's not easy, but it's personal and you know the answer. I promise.
So I was struggling with this for the last month or so. I've noticed myself similar to what she was having during competitions, and when I feel I'm pushing myself near maximum, I get this sharp pain like near the pelvic area, and it's super sharp. It's not really pain, it's something even more. Like I topple over just to go. And then it would I feel lightheaded, and I feel my heart constricted. Like if I want to take a breath, it would just be very shallow, like I wouldn't be able to breathe. And that would last for, I'd say, maybe 10-15 minutes, and it would slowly decrease and go away. And I've experienced this 3 times now in the past, I'd say, month and a half. And now even when I go into like the open per se, or any workout that I see I need to push myself hard, my mind goes back to what I'm gonna feel, and I'm scared to push myself hard.
Okay, so yeah, that's 2 questions. So the question is, when I overtrain, I find myself with pelvic pain that's very sharp, takes my breath away. And then when I go back to the gym and I know it's gonna be hard, my belief is that the pain is going to come back. Okay, so the answer to the second part of the question is everything that Anna talked about. It's what I believe is going to happen based on what happened yesterday. So if you were a pilot and you came to work and said, I'm too lazy to look at today's weather patterns, I'm just going to use last week's weather patterns, that's the same as you thinking about what happened last time and then thinking it's going to be the same today. The first part is that this pelvic floor, these psoas muscles, and then often your glutes, are adrenal linked muscles. So when we are having signs, symptoms in this area, that's when we have to say, what can I feed? How can I refuel my account and still keep up with my training and work and children and whatever else is going on in your life? And sometimes that means you have to delegate to other people. I can't do this. I can't cook for myself right now. I need someone to make my meals. I can't take care of my children. I need someone to do that. I'm preparing for this competition. For right now, these are the changes I need to do. I need to take some of my burden off. So that's the simplest answer. Of course, this area is very dynamic for us, and it could be other things that are in there.
So it could be malnutrition, stress.
Stress, because they're adrenal linked muscles. Also, dehydration can be that really sharp pain, and it could happen anywhere. Usually it's one side or the other. When it's all sides, it's general dehydration. When you have it on the right, it's often potassium. When you have it on the left, it's often magnesium. Again, things that get depleted when we've taken out of our bank account easily happens when we're overtraining. Or eating an unbalanced diet. It's like you can't just eat keto or whatever and not put into your body what it takes to break down that enormous fat load, which you probably weren't doing a month ago, 2 years ago, all that kind of stuff, for your enzymes and all the digestive chemicals to be in place for it. We can't just load it up. Today I'm going keto because my competition is whenever. They did it, you know, and again, the boys did it. The research is coming from men. I was a research scientist before I became a physician. I never wanted girls in my experiment. It's too hard. It was like, no, now I have to ask you about your periods. I'm just trying to get my research done. And it was like, what day of the cycle is it? And it's like, I don't even want to hear it. It's like, it's hard. But again, we're complicated. We're beautifully complicated. So it could be a lot of things. This is another area where we've often had infections. For whatever reason, yeast infections, STD type infections, bacterial vaginosis, all these things come in this area. And sometimes because we don't want to talk about them with our physician or anybody else, we leave them. And sometimes the inflammation of the critter, whatever it was, it has left some scar tissue. And that really sharp pain can often be at breaking. So a great thing, because we've torn it. Unfortunate in the moment, that shortness of breath just comes from the pain. It's not related to what's happening. It's the shortness of breath of having that spike in pain. Yeah. Okay, somebody else, yeah.
I don't compete in CrossFit. I compete in
Good for you.
martial arts.
Oh, very good, very nice.
And usually almost every single time after competition I get sick. Every single time.
Okay.
What can I do to like boost my immune system right after that happens?
Yeah, okay. So after martial arts competition, she gets sick. How can you prevent that and everything? Yeah, it was the germs of that other person. It's yuck. Take a shower. I'm just kidding. That's part of it. Okay. First of all, actually, the first time I was working with the UFC fighters, and I went to Las Vegas and I went to see their show and everything, and I was they gave me front row seats to the octagon, and the first fight of the night was so bloody I thought I was going to throw up in my purse, because I was like, I don't even know where to throw up right now. That's so disgusting. They're rolling all around in that. To me, that's biohazard. We clean that up, we spray that down. If that happened in my office, I would never let people roll around in it. Eventually they called the flight for blood. But I was like, gosh, they waited so long before they did that. So that is very real when you're grappling with somebody else and rolling around on a mat. And they can't clean it in the octagon because it's not like vinyl or whatever, you know, you can't just spray it down. So all the fighters that night fought in that blood of the first fight. Disgusting. Boys. And so that is very real, that exposure to the mat and what's on there. And it's probably different from what you had. Also, that adrenal system deals with infection and inflammation. When you're very inflamed from hard training, compete, and oh my God, it's so nerve-wracking to compete, and there's like, everybody's gonna judge me, that makes it worse. And then all of that crash that comes after, that's what makes you sick. So it's not the bacteria that are on the outside of us, that's them, it's us. So how can we improve us? And in that case, vitamin D is one of my favorite things, vitamin A and D. But anything that we had on that list of ways to improve yourself, to do on the to-do list that helps your adrenals would be appropriate in that situation, because it's the same adrenal glands that are managing inflammation, same. So the more you feed it, the more it has to give. We are exposed every day to virus, bacteria, mold, fungus, everything. We don't get sick every day. For the most part, we have our little soldiers out there fighting the fight of the microbes in a way that we don't even feel. So vitamin D in a very high dose, vitamin A in a very high dose, those are my favorites in a situation like that. All the mushrooms, like the reishi, cordyceps, turkey tail, all of those things are a great way to support the immune system. But it doesn't really matter. If your thing is vitamin C, do vitamin C. If your thing is zinc, do zinc. It doesn't really matter, because all you're doing is filling the bank account so that the whole system can work better. But my favorites are A and D of it.
Right after,
I would do the morning of. Yeah, because that way it's strong going in there. So when you're rolling around, you know, with your opponent and everything, all those bacteria that you pick up like all over the place are just going to be handled. You're not even going to know. Yeah. saw someone somewhere else. Yeah.
If you're saying like the psoas, etc., that's all related to, but I have a massage therapist that only works on my psoas and my glutes because they get so tight from lifting.
Yes.
Could I do some good by
Yes. Yes. So I know you're Okay. So the question is, when you do heavy lifting, especially in the squatting, these get really tight from the overtraining. Yes, and it's an adrenaline sport. And so usually when I say these are like an indication that this is an adrenal cause for the pain here, it's because it's one-sided. So when you have that bilateral stiffness and everything in there, that's the physical overwork of what you've tried to do in your workouts. And you need to for those things, if you look at the small bank account of those muscles, so in order to give back to them, it's like after your training, do the flushing of any kind. It could be hot, cold in the shower. It could be a hot and cold ice pack. It could be stretching. It could be like motility. Some of those movement exercises like today to start, like that comes before your workout and maybe a little bit after your workout. And that's like in that bank account, in these muscles bank account, you've given back to there. So that that burning and everything, that's a lactic acid buildup. If you can get it out of there, that could be somebody else doing it to you. That'd be fantastic if we didn't have to do it ourselves. And that so somebody else is moving it or stretching you afterwards, a fascial stretch or whatever like that, so that those acid wastes don't build up in that tissue and then cause an inflammatory response. And just like if you had an inflamed ankle, it would get very swollen so that you keep stiff and don't use it. So that stiffness is just like, I'm so inflamed in here. It's like if I do that swelling and everything, then she'll hold it still and then I won't have any more. But if we keep doing this all the time, then we won't have it to give the next time. So usually just look for the one-sidedness. It's a ligament, it's right in here. If you push it, that's it's my adrenals. I can do anything on that list and improve it.
So the right is usually...
This was a sharp pain that we were talking about. So sharp pains can often come from dehydration, like a cramp or something like that. And we can cramp anywhere. So if that's what it was for her. So if it's bilateral, it's going to be a dehydration. That's a sharp pain. That's not the stiffness. And if it's on the right, that this sharp pain or cramping type thing, that's a potassium depletion, and then if it's on the left, it's a magnesium type of depletion. But just to be sure, when you're doing extreme anything, especially in desert living, those electrolytes always need to be depleted. Even anytime, wherever you live, and you're doing this 2 a day, 3 a day, whatever, you were saying, it's like, that's like so extreme. It was like, take your electrolytes. It's not just water at that point anymore. You need your electrolytes for that. Yeah.
We've got time for one more question. Refers to the birth control pill.
Yes.
Taking that for such a long time.
Yes.
What would you recommend to get your own hormones natural to like balance?
Yes. I could do a whole day on. Okay. So with regards to birth control, how do I regain my own cycle? How to recover from the detriment of taking hormonal birth control pills. Gosh, there's so much I want to say because this is so important. But if we think about perhaps what was maybe poisoned the most by that, we can look at the liver, and the better our liver functions because it processes all the hormones. The more that we can do for that, glutathione, N-acetylcysteine, castor oil pack on top of it, a hot cold flush, somebody physically getting in there and moving the liver so that it works better. All of those things will help to detox even faster. But rhythm, and it can be those exercises, that first movement thing that you were doing this morning, right, left, but properly though, because I saw both out there, which was really fascinating. It was like people who force their lives, they were going same side. That's not how our body works. We work like this. It should be opposite, like that. And that makes it easy stride. So it was the struggle when you're trying, we don't actually do this. Not well, anyways. So anything that we can do to...
Natural supplements.
Yeah.
Not only the moving
Yeah. So, and removing estrogen is like the DIM is a great one to actually get out excess that. But cleaning the colon in that case with fiber is a wonderful way to move out excess estrogens from the body. Really, really important. So flaxseed is one of the most common ones to do that. But rhythm, so first 14 days of the month you can do a fish oil, second 14 days of the month switch it to be more of a borage oil. Getting in tune with any rhythm that is where you live. We're here by the ocean, the tides, the cycles, all that kind of stuff. There's lots of things that you can do to get into rhythm. That is the most important thing, bringing us back to the forces that are not seen, that influence our cycles. That is the most powerful thing that we can do. But it doesn't, in that case, when it really is a poisoning, anything we do, really hot, cold showers, dry skin brushing, everything helps to move everything out of the body. And in that case, there truly is a physical thing that we need to move because of how important the large intestine is to estrogen, and especially excess estrogen in the body. So a good fiber, short chain fatty acids is a great way to move out the poisoning of birth control.